How you design, align and build matters. Do it together with Figma. And with that being said, welcome to another beginner tutorial. Today we will have a look at Figma, this great design platform to build, design and align. But we will mostly focus or completely focus on Figma. There is also FigJam, which is the align part right here, where you can collaborate with a team. But since it's a beginner tutorial, we will only focus on Figma, the design aspect of the entire thing. Alright, so we want to get started for free, and that's why I want to click this button in the top right corner. And now we have multiple options to get started. I choose the continue with Google option because I find it most convenient. I will log in right now, and then I will see you on the other side. Alright, this is the first page I've seen since I confirmed my Google account creation. So what is our name? Since this is optional, I will click on skip right here. What kind of work do we do? Well, it doesn't matter, and as always, this is just a bunch of questions where Figma wants to know more about the type of users they gain for their service, so it doesn't really matter what you tick here. I will go with student or educator. Click continue. Do any of these describe your work? Well, let's go with founder and continue. What type of institution do you attend or work for? I don't know, let's go for the online course. Who do you usually collaborate with? Let's go for nobody, just me. I don't want to invite anyone, so I click on skip. What brings me to Figma today? Well, using it for fun. Okay, click continue. Have you used Figma products before? No, it's my first time. We are complete beginners and we want to stay with the free option. Get started. We want to design with Figma, or we can also skip it. Okay, we've made it to the interface. And first and foremost, we want to X out everything that does not really matter. So we X out this one, we X out this one, we close this thing. And now we have these basic files, but yeah, all of them we can click on delete, on the delete key on our keyboard, and then delete all three files. And now we are here with a completely blank page, and this is exactly what we want to have. Okay, so let's have a look at the top left button. So here we have a classic notification bell. Right here we can adjust the theme. Of course, we will go with the dark theme. We can potentially get the desktop app, but I'm right now in the browser and it works absolutely flawless, so it's personal preference. But the desktop app is not necessarily needed. It's maybe a bit smoother in design, but it doesn't really matter at all. So let's go settings page. Right here we can customize a lot of account information, and if you want to use custom fonts, so fonts that are not yet installed into Figma themselves, which are actually most fonts, but if you have any really special font that is not included in Google Fonts, for example, you have to download the installer. Like if you use Figma in the browser, to then use any font that is installed on your device locally. If you use the Figma desktop app, then you won't need this installer. But yeah, since we are using it in the browser right now, we probably would need to download this installer. Okay. Community. Here you can create a public profile where you can share your designs with a community, with the Figma community, where everybody can see your designs, use their design, so they can make a copy of your design, they can favorite your design and comment on your design, leave feedback. So it's a pretty nice feature. And here we have the classic email notifications. And if you have watched some of these videos before, I'm a huge fan of turning all notifications off because it makes my life and my inbox way calmer. All right. So in this overview, we have a lot of filters and view options. We see our shared files. So for example, the ones we've published and shared projects. And on the left side, we can favorite files. So they will appear under this button. And we have teams. So if you want to collaborate with others, then we will find it here. But since we just want to get started with the basics, we want to create a blank draft. And so we can go onto the draft page and we want to create a new design file. So FigJam is the type of collaboration tool where you can create notes and map out your thinking on a like whiteboard, but since we just want to design, we only need a design file. So I click on design file in the top right corner. And that's it. We successfully created a design file in Figma. Okay, now we X that one out because we don't need no tutorial. And first of all, we can give our design file a name. So let's call it tutorial. Or let's go just with tutorial. And yeah, here you can have a look at other options. You can duplicate it or move it to another folder, favorite this file, for example. Okay, so don't get overwhelmed by the entire user interface. It is actually pretty simple. So where do we start? Let's start with this bottom bar here and go from left to right. So if you click on the Figma icon, you can go back to all of your files. And right here you have some quick actions, which all are assigned to keyboard shortcuts. And these ones need basically no explaining because they are learn as you go type of features. So if you ever need to find something, you can go here and look for the find option. And here you see, okay, this is the find option. If you click it now, you can find any design with a given name. So this applies for all the options right here. Now, here's the plugin page. This is really nice. So Figma has many plugins from other softwares where you can do special things like converting stuff or importing stuff or using stock images without having to leave the Figma application. So this can be really handy, but since we only want to teach Figma today, let's ignore this for now. The same goes with widgets, and here are some preferences. You can leave them all at the default values. Okay, so now we've made it to the move key. The move key is simply your cursor. So right now I'm on the move key. If I drag, I can't move around the canvas. So what we see right here is the canvas, but I can mark stuff. I can, do basic things. And if I right click, I can paste. And these are pretty basic options. If I click on the little drop down, I can scale here, but what is much more handy for scaling is this helping hand right here, where we will have a look at the moment. And if you want to do something from your keyboard, because you are way faster on your keyboard, you can always hover above these things and then see the keyboard shortcut associated. So this one would be V, and the hand tool would be H. So if I press H, I'm now on the hand tool. If I press V again, I'm on the cursor tool or on the move tool, so I don't need to use my mouse at all for switching between things. The same goes for a frame. So the frame is F, the rectangle is R, and the circle, for example, is O, I assume. And then you have line. You can see it switching up there. So these are just simple keyboard shortcuts you can memorize and will memorize with muscle memory over time. So the frame, so essentially as a beginner, you don't need the section and the slice. You will only need a frame. So let's use a frame. I clicked on it. It's the same if I click on it or if I use the F key. And let's drag out a frame. So this is a simple frame. See your frame as like a canvas. So your frame is essentially the canvas that you draw on or that you design on. And then you have the basic objects. Each of these objects can be referenced via clicking or via keyboard shortcut. So you have rectangles, lines, arrows, ellipses, polygons, stars, images, videos, and GIFs can all be imported into Figma. So for example, if I want to go with a rectangle, I click on the rectangle and now I have a funny little rectangle right here. Then the same goes for the pen and pencil tool. So for example, with the pencil, I can pencil stuff. Now I will click V, watch how it switches. And if I want to delete it, I just hover over it, press the delete key on my keyboard, and it's gone. Same goes for text. You can click text or simply T. Then if you click, you have a simple text field right here. And as always, hover over it, delete, and it's gone. Now this is the plugins page, or excuse me, the components, plugins, and widgets page. This will not apply for beginners, but if you make components, so if you reuse stuff like a button, for example, multiple times throughout your project, you can turn this button into a component, which means it comes right here. So for example, if I go here, right click, create component. For example, if I want to use a 167 by 151 gray colored rectangle all the time, I can now go here onto components and now drag a rectangle out every single time. But well, this is only really relevant to use for later features. So we will undo this action by simply pressing Ctrl Z on my Windows keyboard. Okay. Then we have the helping hand, as I call it. If you click this, you can drag around the canvas. And if you press Ctrl on your keyboard, at least I have a Windows keyboard. Hopefully you will figure it out on your own if you have a Mac or whatever type of keyboard layout you're using. And then you press the Ctrl key while being in this dragging mode. Then you can scroll in with your mouse. And yeah, if you scroll normally without pressing the Ctrl key, either if you are in the hand mode or in the, like, how is it called again? Move mode, you can scroll up and down. And once you hold the Control key, you can move around and scroll in any direction. It adjusts the zoom level here, which you could also adjust by simply clicking. So zoom out, or you can do it by using the helping hand and the control while scrolling on your mouse wheel. And this button is pretty simple. Here you can leave comments for collaboration. For example, nice white frame. Then I can pause it and now other people can see, okay, someone left a comment here. But we don't need this right now. So X out of this one. This was essentially most of the top bar. So these are all the basic functions in Figma. Then on the right hand here, we have our profile. So if other people are around you, they can click on the Spotlight Me button and now everybody will follow your every step. So for example, if you're explaining something at this exact like pixel edge and someone clicks, they are instantly redirected to your cursor. So they are always following you at every single step. Then here you can share your file to anyone with your link or invite people over their emails, or you can publish your file to the community. Many different options. Then right here is the developer mode. So if you want to code your stuff into actual like HTML, CSS, that kind of stuff. So for example, if you design a website or an app, then you can translate your design into code, which makes it easier to see the spacing and the color values. So everything you need for coding, but this is not a beginner feature, but it's pretty handy if you want to actually convert your designs into code. And here you can simply present your designs. So if I click on here, a presentation view will open and you can see, well, my white frame. To get out of this presentation, we just want to click escape and or F11, help. How do we exit this design actually? Figma. So now I clicked on the Figma icon to go back to the home menu. This was my last option. So did I enter the design again? Yes. Okay, so I don't want to enter the design. I want to enter the tutorial. But right now I can show you if I start this. So if I favorite it, it's now under my favorite files. This is pretty handy. I can delete this presentation. Okay, doesn't work. Egal. Get back into the tutorial. It doesn't matter. It's just for demonstration purposes only. Okay, so now I am here with me and me. That's interesting. I think I successfully bugged Figma out. I don't know. Okay, excuse me for that little rant. Okay, let's focus back onto the tutorial itself. I messed up everything right now. Okay, so where do we start? We have this design panel right here, and we have this panel here on the left. I think let's collapse all of that stuff. We don't need any of these things at the moment. Let's start with a simple square, or let's start with this right page. So right now you see a color right here. This color just determines which background color we use. Let's go for a subtle gray. You can always enter in these formats to change every color. And here you can change the opacity. And if you want to export your entire thing, you click on the export key, but we don't need that right now. Okay, so let's get started with a simple rectangle. If I choose the rectangle and now I drag, you see every value adjusts. But if I also hold the Shift key while doing so, it adjusts linearly. So both values get adjusted in a 1-to-1 ratio instead of me doing this. Okay, this is great. So let's go for, let's say, a pixel 286 by 286. But let's say, no, we want to resize it to 100 by 100 pixels. We do it by having a look at the right side. So our width right now is 286 and our height also. And to keep these proportions constrained, I borrowed the wording from Figma right here, you can tick on this link button. So now if I change the width, watch the height, it will auto adjust to the same value. But now, for example, if I undo that and then now half the height to 50, the height stays the same. All right, let's go back. Let's link both of them. It's pretty handy. So now if I go to maybe 150, you see both of these change to 150. Okay, great. Then you have coordinates. So this is your entire playground. Let's get rid of all of that. Let's get rid of that comment if possible. Okay, so this is your entire playground and your playground has X and Y coordinates. So let's go to 0, 0, which is, the absolute basic version for our first design. Now here you can adjust the tilt angle. So for example, if you want to tilt it 45 degrees, we can do that right here. Let's undo that by going to 0 again. And if you want to smooth out the corners, for example, by 25 pixels, we can do so here for all 4 corners, or we can adjust for maybe only we want the left corner or we only want the right corner to be normal. So if you want to do it like that, we have now recreated the ChatGPT icon, for example. So they have a design like that and then the ChatGPT logo in there. Okay, so this is now mixed. Let's go back to 25. Then we can see 25 here, go back to 0. And now we have a totally normal 100 by 100 square. Okay, here we have different layer options. These come in handy if you layer different objects over another, but we will have a look at this in a sec. Here you can like make it invisible. And here you can change the opacity. So maybe if you want to have the opacity or the layer with the property pass through to 50%, we can adjust the setting right here because the opacity is this setting right here. So this changes the opacity. This as well, because pass through is a synonym for opacity. If you don't take my word for it, but essentially it is. Okay, so right now we have here fill. Fill essentially is your color. So if we click in here, we can enter some color manually, or we can click on the icon right here and then we get back to our nice animation or the color picker. You can use the color picker here to pick any color from the canvas or from any other image you have open in your browser. Let's go for plain red. Then here you can change your opacity. Here you can switch your modes. Pretty interesting. You get shown the other colors that are already on your document. You can create gradients, for example, linear gradients, angular gradients, whatever you want. You can use images or upload images to a predetermined size of this square, for example. And the same goes for videos. Okay. Let's go with the diamond. No, let's go with the angular one. It looks pretty nice and red. What a nice design. Excuse me for that one. Okay. Now, what can I show you next? Okay, here you can add strokes. A stroke is simply a border. An effect is something like a drop shadow. So you see this drop shadow right here just got added automatically. Of course, as with everything, stroke, color, and properties, you can play around here. You can change them, inner shadow, outer shadow, so you can see the hover effect right here. Have a look how all of these properties change. So you can play around with intensity and that kind of stuff. I will deactivate both of these. And if you want to export anything, you just click on it, click on export, and you can change the format and this scale. So right now we are at 100 by 100. But since all designs in Figma are vectors, scalable vector graphics or SVGs, you can resize them before exporting. So if I go on the 4x and would now export as a PNG, this PNG would have a 400 by 400 ratio. And on your preview button, you can preview your export. Okay, that's it for this part. Maybe you've noticed this is also a little bit more complex. Maybe you've noticed these 4 buttons right here. These 4 buttons are for libraries. So here you can add maybe a brand color, for example. So let's say your brand color is white and your description is brand color, and now the property of that brand color is white as it's suggested. Now we can create a style. Now we have white as a reference here, and you see it's different to, oh, nice feature. If you click the Alt key and click on something and then drag and drop it and let go, you have made a duplicate copy. The same goes for if you click on something and then Control D, you've also made a copy of the same thing. So that's how you can duplicate stuff, and you can do that many, many times over. Okay. Most of the Figma settings are similar to other design softwares, and I think this is a bug. Yeah, doesn't matter. Okay, so back to our white square. This is now a property of white, and now let's say we want to do an ellipse. Also here, same thing applies. If I press Shift now, it gets resized. If not, I can size it however I want. Let's go with a 100 by 100 ellipse. Now this is any color, but now if I want to have it our brand color of white, I can click simply on here and now it has the exact same color. So you can see this color style as a variable. The same applies for font sizes, font spacing, so you can get really fancy with these settings. And now the real magic is, if you now decide that maybe your brand rebrands from, let's say, white to black, and now changes to black, everywhere where I use this variable will apply the same color. Isn't that great? So you can say, for example, if your entire brand, every white you've used in any designs of your entire brand now switches to black, for example, you can all do that in a couple of seconds by simply changing the variable, provided that you use the variable as a color style across all of your designs. Okay, so I can make it pretty clear by simply redoing that and using as a fill a simple white right here. Now it is white as well. Let's align them. And now I change the white color to black. Now you see only the properties where I've used the variable right here are changed, not the ones where I didn't do that. If I do here, now the same would apply across all of them because the property is assigned to all of them. Okay, so now we've got the complete right sidebar finished. Now the only thing left is this bar on the left. So you see Figma essentially is pretty simple. It just gets complex with the stuff you design with it. Okay, so here you have different pages. So for example, this is page 1. You could call it, I don't know, tutorial page 1, or I do it for my thumbnails. So one page of mine is called thumbnail. Then there are all of my thumbnails. On the next page there are my profile pictures, and then like social designs as the banners for my YouTube channel, for example. So you can structure your designs through pages. That's it for the pages. Then assets is basically the same as the components tab up here. I don't want to go too deep in there, but Figma allows you to use some presets right here, which is pretty nice, apparently. And now this preset is actually perfect for ending of the video with the most like complicated stuff, let's say, even though it isn't. First of all, we can always delete this color style right here. So if we just right click, block, and now do fancy stuff, I don't know, help, how can I get rid of this color style? Allow, yes, allow, right click, delete style, and done. So now we have reset back to the beginning. Okay, no color style, no nothing. And here's our article. So let's say we've designed this article, looks pretty nice. We have text and images and a background, and this is all hosted on a frame. You can see this is the icon for a frame. and the article is a frame right now. If you click on this article, you can see all of these settings it has. So where it is located, how tall it is, that kind of stuff, which colors are used in it. You can also export it right here. So preview, you can export this entire article as an image or PDF, SVG, whatever your desire. But now it gets interesting. If I click on this little arrow key, and these are the same ones, so I can hide it or I can lock it, so I can move it around. If I do that, I definitely can move stuff around. And now you've seen, if I click on this button right here, I can expand every single thing that consists this frame. So this is even a more complicated design, because in the frame you have more frames layered into each other. But for example, let's have a look at this paragraph. This is simple, a text element layered into the frame. So now it is into the frame, and now it is not. You can see now they are two separate beings. But once I drag it again, take it and drag it back in here, you can see it's now nested within the article again. Okay, now you can drag it around as you'd like, or you can take it out and delete it. If you want to access something specifically, if this is closed, and now you want to maybe have a look at the image right here, you can go Control, left mouse click, and now you have instantly addressed the hero image, as it is called in this article right here. And if you would like to just make adjustments to this one, or just want to like export this one image, you can do that right here. And that's basically it. So you can do some more custom stuff with this. This is like a auto frame. So if I were to move this, you can make it responsible. For example, if you design a website, that this stuff doesn't get messed up if you move it. You see right here, it always resizes to the width. But this is more complex. This gets done with these constraints a little right here, so you can try it out for yourself. This then happens if you go on right click and then add auto layout. You can get designs like these, where all of the stuff gets automatically resized depending on how you resize the thing itself. And this applies to like the look of your website, for example, on a smartphone or on a desktop or on a laptop or on a tablet, that kind of stuff. And if you want to preview your stuff on a certain device, for example, your iPhone 15 Pro, you can link that, so your design, with a device, and then have a look at how your resized design looks on a certain device, like in a tablet, or I don't know, even see smartwatches. So you can design for pretty much anything.